welcome to Schedule Release Night 2026. This is FFPC Insider Access. My name is Eric Balkman, at Eric Balkman on the X. Of course, you know me from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the HSFF Hour spinoff show, Extra Reps, the Road to This High Stakes Lowdown, and the Fantasy Football Players Championship. Hi, hello, and welcome. So glad to be joining you on such an important night for fantasy football drafters. I'm going to bring in my guest co-host in a little bit, but before I do that, I want to remind everybody that we have a pair of best ball tournaments going on right now. The FFPC Best Ball Tournament features a $400,000 grand prize. That's $100,000 more than we had for first place last year. Superflex Best Ball Tournament. You can win $100K at that, and it's only going to cost you $35 to get in. Don't forget about the Big Gorilla, which is back again this year. One of our main contests, a $1 million grand prize, $6 million plus prize pool. $350 to enter. The 7 Bananas promo is live. Keep randomly getting that 7 pick multiple times in a row, and we're going to keep throwing escalating bigger and bigger free teams at you. The Early Rampage tournament is about half full right now, so if you are playing in the Big Gorilla, you're going to be having your team entered into 2 tournaments for the price of 1 entry fee. Can't go wrong with that. Early Rampage tournament, once again, a $25,000 grand prize. If you always wanted to play a national tournament, but never have done it before, the Baby Gorilla is a good way to start off. It's the same exact rules as the Big Gorilla. You can still win a $100,000 grand prize at just $125 to enter. We have Dynasty and Empire Dynasty startups at $100 going all the way up to $5,000 if you want to play fantasy football year round. We also have the FFPC Main Event Early Bird, our flagship contest. You can cash in on this promo. You got 17 more days to go on it. You're going to get $200 off your first team. You'll be entered into the Pros versus Joes competition, where you can compete against 42 industry pros for 7 free 2027 FFPC main event teams. That drawing will take place in early June, and you are entered in it if you sign up for the main event by the end of this month. And then, of course, Chop Leagues also available at myffpc.com. Just don't be the lowest score any single week, and you will win the league. Chop Leagues now available at myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live on this channel, which we will be again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. More on that later on in the show. All right, let's bring in our co-host tonight. She is no stranger to this program. She's been on it multiple times before. She is the waiver queen, doing the fabulous waiver column that she does every single week during the season for Legendary Upside. You can catch her with the ship chasing crew as well. She's in the Scott Fish Bowl once again, and of course the Fantasy and Frames Women's Best Ball Tournament this year again. You connect with her on the X at Steph Miller 57. Please welcome aboard the super shorty herself, Stephanie Miller. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing tonight?
Doing excellent. I don't know about you, Steph. I think the schedule release holds some cachet for obviously a lot of best ball people out there, so we can see who we're stacking in week 17. But for me, it's more of like an NFL fan event. Like, I get excited to see who my Packers are playing, when they're playing. Obviously, fantasy enters into it as well. You're a Cowboys fan, right? I mean, are you excited to see who the Cowboys are going to be this year?
I am pretty excited. I mean, I think that they did good, fixing their defense. We got Pickens. Seems like everything's like falling, all in line now. So I'm not sure what we're going to do if Javonte Williams gets hurt, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But I'm definitely excited to see who we play.
All my dynasty shares of Jaden Blue would skyrocket. Although I honestly, if Williams were to get hurt, I mean, you're more plugged into that team than I am. Probably be sort of a committee approach, wouldn't it be, if Williams were to go down?
I mean, they really haven't committed to anybody as the RB2 necessarily. So yeah, it might even, I definitely am not sure it would be Blue because and he's definitely not a bell cow. So right. I don't see how he would take over all the work. So definitely would see some other guys in there. I would hope they would bring somebody else in probably, but who knows?
We will get into more Cowboy stuff throughout the show tonight. I didn't want to get that out of the way at the start for sure. Coming up on the program, it's going to be kind of weird how we're going to do the show tonight. Now, first segment, where Steph and I are going to go around the NFL. There's some player stuff that we have to sort of suss out. I want to get Steph's opinion on certain players and whether their targets fades or kind of in the middle for her this year. And then in the second segment, we'll be watching the schedule release, or at least I'll be watching the schedule release along with everybody else here, and we'll talk about some of the games that are standing out to us. There's one that I think we'll talk about to lead off the segment. I think it got released yesterday, a pretty important Week 17 game that I know best ballers are definitely excited about. And then the final segment, we will go over Steph's Women of Fantasy Football Best Ball Tournament team that she drafted. Stacy Perez, our mutual friend, puts this together every year. FFPC hosts it, and I want to get your thoughts on just a few of the picks that you made. And that'll be the show tonight, and that'll carry you into hopefully an early start for your weekend. Unlike Steph and I, who are probably going to be working like dogs tomorrow, so it doesn't really matter for us. Let's get into it, Steph. Devon Achane extended by the Miami Dolphins. It is 4 years, $68 million. I do believe, and it was a moniker that Breece Hall had for just a couple of days, or maybe it was vice versa. But now I believe it's Achane, who is the third highest paid running back in the NFL. And what I think is interesting about this, Steph, is there are a couple of schools of thought on this. Given that he is going, as far as ADP goes in the FFPC Big Gorilla right now, over the last 7 days, shout out Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani. If you're playing in the FFPC, get a subscription to Fantasy Mojo. It's going to help you out quite a bit, both pre-season and during the season. Devon Achane's ADP 201 right now, Steph. That's running back 7. So if you are of the opinion that this guy is an elite pass catcher, that his talent is going to supersede the lack of offensive weaponry in Miami, then you're probably willing to pay that 1-2 turn price for Achane right now. However, if you are believing that Jesus Christ himself could not put up a top 15 running back season on this Miami offense, you're probably taking James Cook or Genty or Lamb or Jefferson there instead of Achane. How do you fall in on this? Because we saw Achane do it last year, but as hard as it is to believe, this Dolphins offense probably going to be significantly worse than it was in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously this has got to be pretty positive for how they view him. I mean, they're going to use him as a weapon. And I think a lot of it is like, he's had a ton of production. And as you said, like last year, he was the top receiver in terms of yards per carry and yards after contact. A lot of people are not giving him sometimes the credit he deserves. He's created a lot of yards after that contact and created his own yards and things. So, yeah, I do agree that obviously there is some implosion risk with the Dolphins, but I still want to target him. I mean, he's likely to be pretty much one of their top receivers. I mean, in his 3 years, he had about 172 receptions, 544 carries. I mean, he's a stud. I mean, they did pay him for a reason. They gave him a lot of guaranteed money as well. This is a big contract, huge contract for a running back. So I am definitely in on him this year. Also, I like sometimes when they have that mobile quarterback, it might open up some things. You know, they're going to have to account for that as well and not just hopefully be able to stack the box, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You bring up the mobile quarterback aspect, and historically, I've kind of shied away from that. Because I think sometimes mobile quarterbacks, rather than dump it off, will just take off and run, right? But Achane, I think, is a little bit different because, I mean, they are so young at wide receiver on this team. They are so inexperienced, and you just rattled off how many 170 plus catches he's had over the last couple of years. I almost think that the dump off thing is not really something we should concern ourselves about at all. We should be looking at, they have to feature this guy, both in the running and the passing game, because he's going to make their offense go. If Achane isn't crushing it on offense, Dolphins aren't putting up points. And I think a defense can only key on one guy so much. before it does open up stuff for, stuff like, Caleb Joseph and Malik Washington and Dulcich and all these other guys they have on the team. And quite frankly, they could add, I've been saying this for the last couple of months, they could add Deebo Samuel, they could add Stephon Diggs, they could add, Keenan Allen or something. All of a sudden this offense isn't looking all that bad. But yeah, I think that's the way to look at it is the pass catching for Achane might even go up this year than from what it was last year. And that's maybe he's worth the price at the 1-2 turn. I did pass on him recently in favor of Amari and Hampton, and you have me rethinking that decision now, Steph. I might want to have that draft pick back. Moving on to Malik Neighbors here. We talked about this on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour last night, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Dan Dugan, who covers the Giants for The Athletic, said that Neighbors had a cleanup procedure done on his knee a few weeks ago, and it was to remove some scar tissue that was causing stiffness in the knee. Now, according to Dugan, this does not affect his timeline back to the field at all. They're still hopeful that he's ready for week 1, although I think the Giants, if you asked them to be completely honest with us, they would probably tell you that they don't feel great about a specific date that he's going to be back yet. They're still kind of figuring it out as well. This was week 4 when he tore his ACL last year. Did not have surgery on it until about a month or so later. Now he has been tumbling in drafts in the big gorilla. Malik Neighbors is now barely in the top 10 for wide receivers. He's wide receiver 9 right now, and he's becoming a pick at the 2-3 turn after, being like sort of at that early second round pick maybe a month or so ago. So FFPC players are gradually wearing down on Neighbors. How concerned are you, Steph, knowing about this procedure now and knowing that the Giants, again, I feel like are kind of a little bit in the dark of when they think he's going to be out there. Obviously, everybody's hopeful that they're ready for week 1, but you never know. Your level of concern and how you're handling Neighbors in drafts right now, what you would tell people to do.
Well, I mean, I do have a little bit of knowledge on injuries. So first of all, it was not a clean ACL tear. Mm-hmm. It was ACL, there was a meniscus, and I believe it was LCL, or I have to look up. I believe one of the other ligaments as well was involved. So yeah, like you said, they didn't operate right away. There was a little bit of time, which is not unusual. So with the meniscus, it's like the time they're taking to come back into the rehab. A lot of times they're a little bit more conservative with like what they're doing in some of their processes. And it seemed like he didn't have a lot of the range of motion they would want him to have. So mm-hmm. The scar tissue can impede that. It can also impede some of the circulation, blood flow, healing. So adding that second surgery made sense. I don't think it will affect him, say, in Dynasty, like over in the outcome. But I would expect that it is, regardless of what they're saying, going to push the timeline back a little bit. I also think that if he plays week 1, he is not going to be anywhere near 100%. And you are not going to want to be drafting him where he goes week 1. I would think, honestly, I think it's going to end up being more likely than not that he is going to start on PUP. With the second procedure would be my inkling. And he's probably not going to be close to 100% until towards the end of the season.
Yeah. And that's
unfortunately now, I mean, how much are you still going to get? How much is his, 75, 80%, something like that? I mean, there's a lot of aspects that go into some of these guys when they're returning, like to play. It's like there's a lot of mental things of them trusting their knee, especially when we're talking about these receivers that are running these routes, that are cutting, that are doing stuff. So I don't know. I feel a lot more comfortable probably in my Dynasty outlook than necessarily redraft this year. If you can get him, now if you can build around it and make a team that like in best ball that you think is strong enough that in those money weeks, if you can get through to that week 16, 17, then sure. I mean, I definitely think it's worth the risk somewhat, but you definitely have to be very intentional with your builds. And I would try to get as much discount as possible.
So you mentioned something that I think we should all understand. And I wholeheartedly believe this. Regardless of when he comes back, if it's week 1, if it's week 5, if it's week 7, I don't think he's going to be 100%. You mentioned at the end of the season, maybe. I think that's when he'll be closest to 100%. But I still don't think we're going to see capital letters Malik Neighbors until 2027. So understanding that, let's do a little would you rather right now. And this probably won't matter a whole lot, Steph, because you can easily get any of these guys instead of Neighbors. Tell me, would you rather have Malik Neighbors? This is redraft, not dynasty. Malik Neighbors or George Pickens?
Pickens.
Malik Neighbors or Chris Olave?
That's getting tough. I think I might have to say Olave.
By the way, I agree with you on both of these so far. Malik Neighbors or Nico Collins?
Nico.
Malik Neighbors or AJ Brown?
Assuming he gets traded to the Patriots, I'm taking AJ.
And then the next one, Malik Neighbors or Tedaroa McMillan?
Give me Ted.
It's close for me.
That's a little tougher, yeah.
But God, and this is what I'm talking about, because you won't even have to make this decision, because Neighbors is going at the 2-3 turn. Now we're at the 3-4 turn. So these guys are all going around later. Malik Neighbors or Devonta Smith?
I mean, let's see if AJ gets traded.
Let's assume he's traded.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I have been drafting Neighbors ahead, but with this news and really diving in and thinking about it, I think I might want Devonta.
Malik Neighbors or Garrett Wilson?
I think that's where I'm going to do Neighbors.
That's where
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I still have a little trouble with the Jets, and they added so many weapons. So it's like I'm not quite sure overall how much they're going to be able to just concentrate the volume there.
The Fantasy Football Garage chiming in on YouTube right now, saying it's going to take a while for this Neighbors news to be reflected in ADP, which is correct. The Neighbors stuff came out. I feel like it was a couple of days ago. This would have been yesterday afternoon. So it's barely been 24 hours. And Fantasy Football Garage agrees with you a lot on these would you rathers that you have been doing. I think we're falling in on the same line of thinking too, Neighbors versus these guys. I drafted Neighbors once so far this year, and I think I'm good until the price falls. Steph, I don't think I need to be stretching and reaching to get him on my rosters this year. Scott White, I always bring this up. I know it's fantasy baseball. Scott White, who covers fantasy baseball for CBS Sports, always says, and he's speaking in a baseball sense, but I think it applies in football. Your players are going to get hurt over the season. Maybe don't draft the guys that are already hurt coming into the year to make it more of a quagmire for you to start off your season, which I think is wise. Pittsburgh. Okay, a couple of things to talk about here. We'll focus on Aaron Rodgers first. Now, there were reports last week, Steph, that Rodgers was going to be in Pittsburgh. He was going to meet with the brass. He was going to be talking about the future and sort of like the mutual expectations for each other. And Brooke Pryor, who covers the Steelers for ESPN.com, said that the meeting did not appear to come to fruition. She was at the facilities. She didn't see Rodgers. She talked to other Steelers beat writers that were at the facilities. They said they didn't see Rodgers either. And apparently the meeting maybe even never took place. May 18th is the next day Pryor said that we should be watching for when the Steelers begin OTAs. Rodgers did not join the Steelers until June 5th last year. So maybe this is going to be delayed another few weeks. I don't know. But for those of us who cannot wait that long, that are drafting right now, Steph, how do we handle players like DK Metcalf, Pat Freiermuth, Michael Pittman Jr., Jeremy Bernard, Jalen Warren, Rico Dowdle? I mean, like any of these Steelers guys, how do we handle them knowing that if it's not Rodgers, it might be Will Howard, it might be Drew Allar? I think this is as uninspiring as the Steelers offense historically has been these last couple of years. I feel like there is a significant difference between Rodgers, who's at the tail end of his career, and then these younger guys who are very much unproven.
Yeah. I mean, I've been drafting thus far under the assumption that Rodgers was going to eventually end up there. I still want to believe that he's just going through whatever theatrics he's doing to maybe, make sure that he is the center of attention when it happens and keep the drama rolling. And this is just part of his saga. But I mean, to say that I'm not slightly concerned would be a lie. So, I mean, I think in these type of situations, the best thing is to take the cheaper options, play it cheaper. And then when we know the information, then you can maybe mix in some of those other guys. But I definitely am not going to want to pay at this moment the premium price tag. So, I mean, I do like the running backs, both quite a bit. I do think they could have a decent role. Figure if they're trailing, they might have to throw to him a little bit. We saw what Rico did with McCarthy, in Dallas here, and then, Warren also. So again, a lot of times I'm going to take the cheaper option. Maybe it's Bernard. You want to play it through. Pittman, I think, is, going to be like the possession guy, obviously, that can rack up some numbers. Metcalf might be the one I'm a little more worried about if, Rodgers, he may not have that upside. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. It definitely puts a little damper on the Steelers for me, though, if he doesn't play. I mean, a lot more questions. I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about in a minute. Alar is pretty raw. Yeah. So if he, ended up, I don't know if he is NFL ready or not. This wasn't the best quarterback class.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? I'll give you the ADPs here. Metcalf is an early 8th round pick at wide receiver 36. This is Big Gorilla ADP I'm doing for FFPC. Pittman is a late 9th round pick at wide receiver 44. In your opinion, do you think that is reflective of a move up in ADP if Rodgers does sign with the Steelers? Or do you think people are drafting those two players in the 8th and 9th round right now as if Rodgers is coming back? I guess the question here, Steph, is how much movement will there be in Metcalf and Pittman's ADP when we do get some sort of resolution on Rodgers?
I think no matter how much we think people are already drafting with a certain assumption, they always double count things. I don't know why, but we see it constantly. So when we get the news, there probably will be some movement. I'm not sure how much. I don't know how excited people still are for those Steelers guys. And I mean, you figure if they're moving up, someone else has to move down. So, I mean, maybe I don't think it's a ton. I think that maybe Pittman could move closer to where DK's going, and then DK kind of move to the top of his tier. But I don't think we're going to see an astronomical jump or anything, because I just don't, DK's not going to be he's not a possession guy, really. He's still going to be more that explosive. So I think Pittman might get closer to DK would be the thing if we get Rodgers, to me, that would happen. And then, but yeah, I just don't think that they're going to significantly rise. And that's another reason I don't think I'm dying to draft them right now. Yeah, I'm okay for waiting this one out a little bit on the information. I don't think they're the guys that are necessarily going to bury you. I think they're okay picks where they go, but I'm not sitting there I think that they're going to be the guy you absolutely need. I would be very surprised.
And I'll bring this up too. Metcalf had his second worst season for catches with only 59 last year. He had his worst year receiving yardage wise with only 850, and his second worst touchdown year with only 6 touchdowns. You mentioned it, Pittman, or you didn't mention it. Well, I think you intimated it, but Joe King is saying right now on YouTube, feels like Pittman's game is more suited for Rodgers than DK Metcalf's, of which I totally agree. Metcalf's sort of all over the place when he runs his routes, when he makes his plays. And quite frankly, his size and athleticism allows him to do that. But for somebody who is not blessed with the athleticism that Metcalf is, that's Michael Pittman. And Rodgers loves what we've learned about him over the course of his career. He loves knowing what receiver is going to be where and when. He knows that's why him and Devontae Adams were so good together, because they knew exactly where the ball was going to be at any given time. They knew where Rodgers knew where Adams would be on the field at any given time. And I think Pittman is more of a tactician when it comes to that. So for me, I'll say this right now. I think I would rather have Michael Pittman as wide receiver 44 at the end of the 9th round than pay up for DK Metcalf in the early 8th, which, by the way, and you mentioned this, what if Rodgers doesn't come back? Now you've soaked an early 8th round pick into a guy who might be catching passes from a rookie quarterback who is already coming off arguably his worst season as a pro, including his rookie year. And I think that's something that we need to understand and utilize caution when you are drafting DK Metcalf. Steph Miller and I warned you, May 14th, 2026. Never forget. Let's move on and talk about Drew Aller. This is interesting. So the aforementioned Brooke Pryor said Mike McCarthy is uninstalling everything Drew Aller learned while he was playing quarterback at Penn State. Pryor wrote this, quote, "They are re-uploading their own methods and fundamentals and mechanics." And that McCarthy and the quarterbacks coach for the Steelers were very intentional with Aller in rookie minicamp. They're focusing on his footwork. They're focusing on basic throwing mechanics too, which is not something you probably should have to teach an NFL player, but here we are. Now, I'm going to say this too. McCarthy was hired as the head coach in Green Bay. Because he had good experience working with quarterbacks with the Saints and the Niners, and he was hired to sort of like rein Brett Favre in, and then at the same time, Aaron Rodgers grew up to be the quarterback that he was. A good portion of that was Mike McCarthy's tutelage, right? So now McCarthy gets a chance to teach Drew Aller the fundamental, and footwork is so important with quarterbacks, right? So that's what they're working on right now. And Aller, if we remember back like 13 months ago, people were talking about him being the first overall pick of the draft. He decides to come back for Penn State. The Nittany Lions have an also alpha season. Aller gets hurt, but you look at the physical tools that he has, and now he's going to get proper coaching. I don't know how you feel about this in Dynasty Superflex League stuff, but if I know how bad the quarterback class is this year, but I think there might be something there with Aller. Now, probably not given his draft capital, but if there's one other guy that's going to hit at quarterback in this draft besides Fernando Mendoza, why not Aller? I think you mentioned this earlier. I don't think he's NFL ready to start week 1. At the end of the season, he might be able to make some pretty decent starts for Pittsburgh if that's the way that they choose. Your thoughts on Drew Aller, the NFL quarterback now?
I mean, like you said, he was hurt, so the 2025 was kind of a wash. But in 2024, I mean, he was pretty elite. I mean, he had, I think it was 3,327 pass yards and about 30 touchdowns. So here's the thing. I am not a quarterback scout. I don't try to pretend to be, but
me neither.
If you watch any of it, I mean, I will admit his footwork is atrocious. His mechanics are atrocious. It sticks out like a sore thumb. So I am very glad to hear that they are addressing some of these fundamentals. I do think that a lot of his stuff might be coachable. So I think that they might be able to fix some of his issues. I do think he is a big body guy. I think he is athletic. And there could be some upside there. I mean, he's got the arm strength. So he's got a lot of those things you can't teach. You can't just make someone more athletic. You can't make someone, throw well or throw far. So if they can polish him, there is a world that maybe, like you say, he could, if given the opportunity and shape him, there's a chance that the role's there for the taking. I mean, even if it's not this year in Dynasty, like you say, like Rodgers is probably playing one more year at most. So maybe then Rodgers could even mentor and help shape as well. And, Rodgers is a pretty great quarterback, regardless of, what we think of him personally and other things. So, even at this stage, he could be somebody that could definitely shape a quarterback into the future. So who knows?
Yeah, Aller, 230 pounds, 6'5", really a cannon of an arm. So the tools are there. It's just all about harnessing them, and certainly Dynasty Superflex owners should be taking note of that. Another quarterback, a young quarterback that I want to talk about here, and this will allude into how I'm going to ask you how you're handling Falcons in best ball drafts. Michael Penix Jr. is participating in the offseason program for the Falcons. He tore his ACL in week 11 last year. And, when you talk with Stefanski or the GM or any of these guys, they don't really have, they're not pinning a timetable on him. They're not saying like, well, we hope he's, we plan on him doing this at this point or whatever. He is participating officially in phase 2 of the Falcons offseason program. That is Mark Raimondi quoting a Falcons spokesperson for ESPN.com. So he can participate in individual and group instruction and drills, but now no 11 on 11s, no 7 on 7s. 26 years old, Steph. He has torn his ACL 3 times now over the course of his college and pro career, and they bring in Tua Tagovailoa in Atlanta. The issue with the quarterback situation is if you want to get cheap best ball stacks, it's tough because you don't know exactly who the quarterback is going to be for the money weeks. Is it going to be Penix? Is it going to be a Tagovailoa? Is it going to matter? Throw out best ball stuff for a second. Let's just talk managed leagues. What do we do with Drake London? What do you do with Kyle Pitts, Zechariah Branch? I'm trying to think who the other guys that they have. Olamide Zacchaeus is down there as well. Jahan Dotson. Like, what do we do with these guys in drafts, especially London and Pitts, since they're the most expensive? Not knowing who the quarterback is going to be and not knowing at what point of the season, like they could flip-flop back and forth or injuries might happen. But Penix is coming off a significant injury. So your thoughts on how we handle London and Pitts, as well as just drafting Falcon stacks in best ball tournaments to try to make sure that we're not screwing up and we're giving ourselves a chance to win some big money.
As far as the skill guys go, I mean, I'm still drafting them because we've seen they perform pretty well when, under Penix. Mm-hmm. They had some nice weeks. I mean, we saw, what Pitts and London did. And I mean, Tua, as much problems as he has, like he's supported fantasy players before as well. So I think that no matter which one of them plays, there is a lot of really good skill players there, and it's a good offense. Like they have a lot of talent there. So I'm still drafting those guys. It's not so much like this big question of somebody coming in that we've never seen play and don't know if they can support any kind of fantasy relevant players. Now, I will say I'd be a little bit more cautious drafting one of the quarterbacks at this time without that information, because I don't know. I mean, I don't see, again, them rising to some astronomical level that's going to make them undraftable. So, even if you're taking them, you don't have, I would prefer not to rely on that stat as the quarterback. I mean, I think it's fine if you still take 2 of them on the same team and team correlation, like especially in things like best ball. There's still, I expect the Falcons are still going to put up some offensive points. So I don't have a problem doing that. Guessing right now, I think that if Penix is healthy, they might give him a shot. But I don't know. Like you say, he's had so many injuries. But again, ACL for a quarterback is a totally different situation than other positions, like running back and stuff. So we'll just have to see. I think they probably went Penix, and Tua's going to be more like the in case of emergency type thing, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
I think the best advice, and I am kind of with you on this, is I'm not shying away from London. I'm not shying away from Pitts. But those 2 quarterbacks, I'm not really looking to like get these weird back stacks, in best ball drafts. If it happens, great. But I mean, at the same time, I think that you can spend those, your number 2 and your number 3 quarterbacks. I think you can get better players than that. Maybe you have to pay up a little bit more for them, but you don't want to take zeros, right? And there's a very real possibility that if you're drafting one of these guys at this point, from what we know, they could very well turn into a 0. The other thing to keep in mind here about this is the Falcons passing game is pretty concentrated. I mean, it's 3 guys. It's Robinson, it's London, and it's Pitts. Yeah, Branch and some of those other guys I mentioned, they're there, but I can't imagine them commanding targets or earning targets. Branch would probably have some because I think he's kind of a gadget guy and you got to scheme him up a little bit. But I think when you're talking about having this sort of nebulous situation with the Falcons quarterbacks, it does make it easier to draft London and Pitts, knowing that even if it's not a great situation, the extra volume should help out and give you a little bit more of a comfort when you're drafting those players. Another quarterback situation, Steph, and we'll go to Arizona, other side of the country from Atlanta. Josh Weinfuss, who covers the Cardinals, beg your pardon, for ESPN, has reported that Jacoby Brissett was told by the Cardinals that he is their starter there. He is looking for a new contract. He is not doing, the team workouts that they have going on right now for Arizona. He is going to earn less than $5 million this year. And I always say, I'm going to look this up, Steph, and I always forget. I believe that is less than what Gardner Minshew is making for the Cardinals, who is the backup there. So they probably should be paying him. I've been asking this ever since, of all my guests, ever since the NFL draft. It's fun to think about what Jacoby Brissett could do over the course of a full season with McBride and Harrison and Wilson, but at the same time, it was special last year. It was historic, I should say, with how much they got down early and how much they had to pass. Like, there is a regression coming. And the regression could also be coming at the quarterback position itself, because the Cardinals invested a third-round pick into Carson Beck. You could be looking at McBride, Harrison, Wilson, or whatever in September and October and thinking, wow, what great picks I made here. These guys are doing great. But if the Cardinals fall out of the race and Beck starts making starts in November and December, when it really matters, I don't know if we're going to like those Cardinals picks as much as we did back in June, July, and August, right? I want to get your thoughts on that. Would you be shying away from Cardinals because of this Carson Beck possibility this year?
Cardinals are a team that I have been shying away from. I don't fully fade them, but they're definitely like where I said I'm drafting the Falcons and not as worried. I'm much more concerned because even if Brissett, like you said, I think that I don't know if it was sustainable. I mean, there was the game script and he wasn't that guy in the past. I really think that it might have just been a flash and, kind of the perfect storm, situation. Mm-hmm. So McBride, where he goes, like that can kill your team. Like those are, if you're wrong about that, or even if he's just okay and then other people are better, I mean, that's just like, it's over. That lineup is just pretty much dead. It's like, those aren't mistakes you can really recover from. I mean, I still want to believe in Marv, but it's scary. We haven't seen it this far. It's still not flashing. Now, Michael Wilson, maybe I do think Wilson might be better than what we thought originally, but I mean, he's really expensive. If you look at the guys he's going around, like these are legitimate top receivers on their teams. And yeah, obviously I will say, I'm still like going to be drafting like some like Love and things, but yeah, some of especially the pass catchers, I'm definitely lower on. I'm definitely a little concerned.
Yeah, I mean, how can you?
And I don't want Beck.
Yeah, no. That's no. The thing with Beck is like it's so weird because if Arizona is bad again this year, I mean, Beck could be a backup again next year if they get one of these, a top 5 quarterback in the class. And there's a ton of quarterbacks. How can you not be nervous about Marvin Harrison after what we've seen the first 2 years? How can you not be nervous, quite frankly, about Michael Wilson, who blew up last year, but it was at the very end of the season, and it correlated with this wild, gunslinging approach that the Cardinals had to take because their defense was so bad. This is his 4th year in the league. We don't often see like 4th-year breakouts, especially ones that come at the end of the season. And oh, by the way, he barely eclipsed 1,000 yards. So I think there could be regression coming there. And then you mentioned the elephant in the room. Trey McBride is the guy that's most expensive. And to your point, if he doesn't pay off first-round draft capital, man, are you behind the 8 ball already? And I've been saying this. I'm out on McBride in the first round this year. Probably out on him in the second round. I'll let somebody else take him. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies from this Cardinals offense right now, and I'm with you. I'm not targeting him. Although I did just draft Jeremiah Love. I'm fine with that. Just because they took him with the 3rd overall pick. He's a blue chip talent. They're going to want to use him. He is a talented pass catcher. Should fit into what the Cardinals are doing this year. And quite frankly, even if Carson Beck is making starts at the end of the season, probably be pretty easy for him to dump off to Love and just let him do his work. Okay, we go to Tampa. Pro Football Talk had this story. Zach Robinson, who's the new offensive coordinator, Steph, for the Buccaneers this year, said that Emeka Egbuka is going to, quote, take huge huge strides. Down the stretch last year, he did the opposite of whatever huge strides were. He shot out unbelievably out of the gates last year. There's a lot of people that thought they had hit upon this great receiver in their rookie drafts. And then, once Mike Evans came back, Baker Mayfield was dealing with some injuries as well, which certainly probably hampered Egbuka's production a little bit. It's somewhere in the middle, right? He's not the receiver he was to start off the season. He's certainly not the receiver that he was at the end of the season. Now he gets Zach Robinson in there. And what's interesting about Robinson, Steph, he was the OC for Atlanta. What did Atlanta do? They had a lot of targets going to Drake London. And I think if we look at Tampa this year, McMillan, Hurst, Godwin, Egbuka, to me, if they have a number one receiver, it's Egbuka. And he should be able to not only take strides from just the natural sophomore progression you get from NFL players, but he should be able to take strides because I think he's going to see the football a lot more this year.
So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things to unpack here. So the thing is, with Egbuka, now they're talking about he wants him to play the Z role, which to me is an amazing signal because that is what he should be playing. They started moving him to a lot of different roles last year. So we also, on top of, there was the separation issues, Baker also threw a lot of balls that were not catchable. There was a really high uncatchable target rate. He had an injury as well, Egbuka a little bit. So he, there was a lot of things. He had a little bit of a hammy. And then now we got the other thing that kind of coupled with that is with them saying that they could use him in the Z role where he could go maybe in and out of the slot. They're going to move him around formation. They're going to use him where he really was great in college. And now they also, on top of that, have drafted what they're calling a true X in Ted Hurst. He immediately tweeted following that up. And that is really would be his perfect role. So it seems like they have the right idea for how to utilize these guys at their talent levels. Now, I will say, Buka's pretty expensive in drafts. And before this news, I was a little wary on him. I wouldn't say I was necessarily fading him, but there was a lot of guys I was willing to take over him because there was still a lot of mouths to feed, it felt like a little bit there in Tampa Bay, and not knowing exactly how it was going to work out. But hearing this is making me want to be a little more bullish again. I want to believe. I did like Egbuka a lot coming out. So
absolutely, I did too. For sure. And Egbuka right now is wide receiver 18. That glut I mentioned when we were talking about neighbors before, McMillan, Smith, Wilson, Higgins are right ahead of Egbuka, roughly about a half round or so ahead of him. And then he is going about 3 or 4 picks ahead of Zay Flowers, Ladd McConkey, and then DJ Moore and Luther Burden. So that's kind of where Egbuka. Wide receiver 18 seems very fair there. I know some people say, well, he's not going to pay that off. I think he will. And I think, investing a mid-4th round pick, which is what it's going to cost you there, especially if you already loaded up and got a couple of running backs on your team, Egbuka as your number 2 there makes a lot of sense. Speaking of number 2 players, let's go to the number 2 tight end in Las Vegas. Sam Warren, who covers the Las Vegas Raiders for The Athletic, wrote that he thinks Michael Mayer is going to be more of a pass-catching threat now that they have Clint Kubiak as their head coach. The Raiders don't have anybody on their roster who has ever hit 700-plus receiving yards in any NFL season. John Spytek, who's the new GM, who, Steph, I brag about this all the time. I played in a state high school football playoff game against John Spytek. His team beat us 48-3. But him and Clint Kubiak have both said that they want to play bigger people out there, which would probably mean more dual tight end sets, right? Brock Bowers is obviously going to be ahead of him. Brock Bowers is going to eat this year. Bowers is going to have an amazing season. But I have to wonder, given the lack of receiving options on this team, are we sleeping on Michael Mayer a little bit, especially in tight end premium formats like the FFPC? Steph, right now, if you want to get Michael Mayer in your team, he's tight end 42 in the 19th round. I mean, I'd be hitting that, especially as my number 3 tight end at that point. I think he could function maybe even as a number 2 tight end, especially if you have one of these elite guys like Loveland or Bowers or what have you, especially maybe if you have Bowers where Mayer can just step in. He's not that far removed from being a second-round pick in the NFL. I want to get your thoughts on Mayer. Is the 19th round just right, or is that too low for him?
I mean, I think at tight end premium, it makes a lot of sense to take that risk. I had not really been thinking about him as much, but with this news, and like you say, he was a second round pick. He was a decent pass catcher. He's a pretty good blocker too. They did not do anything in the draft, which surprised me. I really thought that they would draft one of, Mendoza's teammates to go along with him there, or maybe give him some weapons. So I would think that, seeing those two tight end sets makes a lot of sense. We know they're going to be probably running the ball a lot too. So, out there for blocking, all that good stuff. So, I mean, at that price, especially in these tight end premium formats that FFPC is, I definitely think that, like you say, it makes sense to mix in to some of these builds. I don't think you have to take him more than that. So, I mean, I'm not going to go ahead and reach on him, but I mean, it dries up pretty good. So, I mean, he definitely is somebody. I mean, if we're taking, Pittsburgh's second tight end and we're taking all these other guys, it's like, why not?
I mean, I just look at it like, so if I'll bring up the ADP right now of the other tight ends going. I mean, you're talking about Mike Gesicki, Michael Trigg, Eli Raridan, Colby Parkinson, Mason Taylor, Evan Engram. I mean, all these guys are like 18th, the other rookies, Oscar Dell, Justin Jolie, Terrence Ferguson, all these other Rams tight ends. I mean, I'm not going to say, I always say Joe Del Zanero, a longtime FFPC player. He always says there's no such thing as a bad pick after the 10th round. And he's probably right. So if you want to fight for any of these guys, then go ahead. And I'm not speaking to you, Steph. I'm talking about all the viewers or whatever. But if you want to take a shot on any of these guys, I'm not going to call you out on that. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, Mayer should probably be a little bit higher than where he's going. I screwed up the rundown. I meant to do back-to-back Tampa stuff. So let's go back to Tampa and talk about the backfield here, Steph. The quote we got from Zach Robinson was that Kenneth Gainwell and Bucky Irving have similar skill sets. The quote, they can kind of match each other in certain ways with what they can do in the pass game. And then he talked about Gainwell's, professionalism and veteran leadership, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a guy who, by the way, last year, 3 running backs caught more passes than Kenneth Gainwell: McCaffrey, Gibbs, and Bijan Robinson. That's it. And then Gainwell was 4th on that list. Irving was actually a pretty good pass catcher too for Tampa. And you hate to see a team add a player that excels in something you thought your existing guy already excelled in, and that's pass catching, because now he's probably going to cannibalize Irving a little bit. We have talked about how Irving is not yet cleared from a shoulder injury. We've talked about how there's maybe some other stuff going on with Bucky Irving too that would make him not the wisest fantasy investment right now. But I will say this, when it comes down to it, here are the ADPs on both of those players right now, Kenneth Gainwell and Bucky Irving. Irving, and it's getting closer, Steph. Irving, running back 19 at the 406. Kenneth Gainwell, running back 35 at the 807. So about 4 rounds separate these two players. In a vacuum, would you rather have invested the mid 4th round pick into Irving, or would you rather wait and take the mid 8th round pick and get Gainwell on your squad?
I mean, at this point, Gainwell's looking pretty nice. I'm not going to lie. Before he was signed, like when he was the free agent, I was drafting a lot of him because, like you say, he was really good last year. Like I was, I laughed, picked him up on waivers, had to, talk a lot of my fellow teammates into not dropping him right away. Thank goodness they did hold on to him and see it through, because, he exceeded a lot of expectations. And like you say, he kind of does things a lot of coaches like. He's a hard worker, he doesn't miss his assignments. He, just kind of can do all the down and dirty stuff. And I mean, yeah, like you, I was kind of like, ooh, when they drafted him, like, I was like, okay, that is a little concerning for Bucky. Like, that one made me, most of the guys, I was like, oh, who cares? It's not a big deal. Just be a complimentary type of role. I was like, well, I don't know. Gainwell has some skills. And now we're hearing, with all the complications, and we saw what happened kind of at the end of the season. And seems like there might be, again, I was talking about some mental things going on, sometimes with these guys get in their head. I don't know. You need a lot for a guy to pay off a 4th round price tag. I mean, you're asking for a lot. And if it is like a 1A, 1B situation there, and of course we still got Sean Tucker possibly, taking some rushing work as well back there. Who knows? I'd rather, again, just go with the cheaper guy that we already know is talented and is getting talked up. And that's a beautiful spot to be able to take some of these guys if you, to build onto like a 0-ish RB type squad. Things, that gives you, I think, a really nice floor with that pass catching.
Irving mentioned
some upside.
Irving mentioned last year, Steph, about how the mental hurdles he had to overcome when he's trying to overcome this injury, which is not easy to do. And now here he is again in May, still not cleared for contact from this injury that clearly has taken a toll on him both mentally and physically. Steve Urgalos already chimed in. Retirement's going to eliminate the competition. I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to see a Bucky Irving retirement, but at this point, whatever. I mean, I don't know what's going through anybody's head, any of these players' heads. Everybody deals with it differently. Retirement aside, you mentioned it. Mid 4th round is a significant pick for your fantasy team, and you don't want to whiff on it. And there is some whiff possibility with Irving here. With Gainwell, regardless of what happens to Irving this year, he's going to have a role on this team. He's going to have a role that is going to maybe not give you the biggest spike week potential, but certainly give you a high floor each and every week with Gainwell, and with maybe some spike week potential in that. I think I said that last night too. I'm repeating myself, which means we need to move on. David Njoku no longer unemployed, Steph. He signs a deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. It's 1 year. I think it's worth up to $8 million. So there's some funny money on that. I don't think there's much guaranteed. Perhaps the biggest story in this Njoku signing is what it does for one Oronde Gadsden, a player that, quite frankly, it's been one battle after another for him this offseason, dealing with, the rise of Trey Harris. They draft Brennan Thompson. And the offensive linemen are coming back, which is probably good, right? Because that means Gadsden staying in block. He can be out there running routes. But you still, and Quentin Johnston, I know Mike McDaniel was talking him up as well. And Njoku, I don't think is a player I want to be in business with for fantasy purposes. The biggest story here is his impact on Gadsden. Does this effectively nuke Gadsden for you? Is this a player that you are out on this year, or do you still hold out hope that we're going to see something from Oronde Gadsden II?
I wasn't drafting a ton of Gadsden just because his price was kind of expensive, and a lot of times it was just structurally not really always working for me. But let me tell you, I'm excited to see the dip now, if there is one, because I will take the discount. Because I don't think, but this is not a lot of money for a tight end at all. And I mean, Njoku had a lot of injuries, and I do think he was a talented guy, but it seems like if he was able to have show something, wouldn't someone else have offered him a better deal? There's a few places that need tight end, and if they're not willing to beat out this type of price for his services, that makes me think he might be closer to washed, and it might be just a whole big kind of nothing burger, honestly. And I think if I get a discount on a rookie, in an exciting, offensive environment, I'm excited for the Chargers. Like you say, they're going to be getting a lot of players back. I think, this is going to be an exciting offense. It's going to be a fast offense. I mean, literally and figuratively, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy the dip on that.
Gadsden is still tight end 9 right now. So he is, I got to sort this out again. So right now he is tight end 9 in the FFPC Big Gorilla over the last week. Steph, I'm looking at him. I screwed it up. I'm looking at Gadsden being drafted around, if I can finally pull this up. So he is going behind Pitts, Kraft, and Laporta. He is going ahead of George Kittle, Isaiah Likely, and Travis Kelce. It's a mid-7th round on average. However, since this Njoku signing, I think we've seen him fall a little bit. In fact, he's fallen all the way to the mid-9th in one FFPC Big Gorilla draft. So we could see more of a discount coming. And I think that's what we need to look at, is has it bottomed out yet? Are we getting rock bottom price on Gadsden? Because then at that point, where you don't even have to draft him as a starting tight end, then I think that there's something there. Chargers are going to be fun to watch. That offensive line is healed. They are loaded for bear, and we look at a player like Njoku, where this signing doesn't necessarily affect Njoku all that much. But this is another weapon for Herbert. This is another guy who can block, who can catch, who's a former Pro Bowler at the position. He comes in, and maybe Herbert is the guy that we should be talking about here. Mike McDaniel said he wants to refine the footwork of Justin Herbert, work on his timing, work on his anticipation, which I don't know how much you can coach that. I always thought throwing within anticipation is sort of like either you got it or you don't. But maybe you can coach that. I don't know. So he was talking to Chris Rim, who covers the Chargers for ESPN, about the strengths and weaknesses of Justin Herbert. And it seems like he's making it his personal mission to get everything he can out of Herbert. And the Chargers are obliging by giving Herbert everything he needs from an offensive standpoint. Your all-pro tackles are back. You're going to have Amari and Hampton, God willing, for a full season. You have Trey Harris. There's a lot of people projecting a big season from Trey Harris, people smarter than me. And then obviously Johnston, McCaffrey, the list goes on. We mentioned the tight ends too. Herbert maybe is the guy that we should be excited about here, Steph. If we look at the FFPC Big Gorilla info on him, we can see he is going at quarterback 9 at the 10:01. Certainly the ceiling is higher than that. It seems like a fair price for Herbert, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't be adverse about taking him over Jackson Dart. I would consider him over Caleb Williams. I think you can even make a case for him over Jalen Hurts, although I don't know if I go that far. I certainly understand the argument. Your thoughts on the step that Herbert is going to take forward this year under the tutelage of Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think he is a little underpriced, and I mean, I've been saying it, and then I haven't, unfortunately, been following my own advice to the level I should be. But especially, I do like your point about Dart. I think, especially now with the news on Neighbors, it's hard to see that because his price was already a little bit hopium for me. And now I would definitely think that, yeah, Herbert. I mean, it's nice that you don't have to always do that because he is so cheap. But I definitely think he's somebody you should be prioritizing to take. I just think that offense is going to be explosive and put up a lot of points. Hopefully they're going to get him also with the footwork. They're going to get him rushing a little bit, doing a lot of things. So, he's a big boy. He can take some hits.
And he has.
And now he'll have those protection too. He's tough. Yeah, he's very tough. So I'm excited to see. I think we were excited about him at one time. And then, one down season, people forget. And I think we might see him finish. He could easily finish as a top 5 quarterback.
The other thing that's nice about Herbert in best ball leagues too, you can get David Njoku, you can get Quentin Johnston, you can get Trey Harris all going after Herbert. So you add one of those guys onto your best ball team, and all of a sudden that's looking not too shabby, having Herbert on your team. Or maybe you already had McConkey, maybe you already had Gadsden. And by the way, Gadsden, he's another player that could dip below Herbert too in ADP, so you might be able to stack those guys as well. Exciting time to be drafting Los Angeles Chargers. Exciting times for the Tennessee Titans. They didn't get their man Jeremiah Love at 4, but they did get their wide receiver in Carnell Tate there. He agrees to a 4-year, $51 million contract, $33 million in total, fully guaranteed. He's expected to be the number 1 receiver this year. Last year at Ohio State, 44 catches, just under 800 yards and 8 touchdowns, 3.52 yards per route run, which you like to see. I have drafted him probably in more spots than I expected so far this season, Steph. I do think Wan'Dale Robinson probably limits his ceiling a little bit. I hope that he is more of a true number 1 rather than a guy that, is sort of like, just not being a sacrificial X or anything like that. But I hope that Carnell Tate ends the season as the de facto number one rather than Wan'Dale Robinson, getting 100 catches for 60 yards again, where it's really affecting Tate's performance. Your thoughts on Carnell Tate? I'd love to know what you think about him as a prospect and what you think about him now that we know he's going to be in Tennessee this year. Right now, the ADP on him, he is going as a fringe top 30 wide receiver, and you can get him with a mid 6th round pick in the FFPC Big Gorilla.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just what you think of, their offense in general. Like I do like Tate a lot. Like I was excited about Tate coming out. It was kind of between him and Tyson for me, when we're talking about who the most talented guy was. Tate had, he could separate really easy. I feel like he could fit into a lot of offensive schemes. The biggest thing is, what do we think of Cam Ward? How is that going to be like? Is he going to take a step forward? I'm hoping that getting him some of these offensive weapons, we will see more. I do think there hopefully was something there. So, scheming everything. I think they do have talent. I think we could see. I think that the Titans could be a little bit sneaky. Again, with you, I do hope that they don't just dump it off constantly. And it's the PPR scamming, to Wan'Dale constantly. But I do think that Tate offers a lot of that same stuff and a lot more upside too. Because we've seen him be able to track the ball, get deep, and do things as well. So I don't think Wan'Dale has that as much in his skill set. So hopefully, Tate's got that upside and can keep him at bay. And they have also a couple good still running backs, even though they didn't take Love. So I think the offense could hum together, and it's pretty cheap for the possibility. It's one that could be kind of sneaky fun.
I think the other thing too, and you think about how Cam Ward ended last season, where he was throwing 2 touchdowns like every single game, and that's as a rookie, and that's without Carnell Tate. And I feel like this offense has an opportunity to grow together now that they have Tate, now that they have Robinson. You're still bringing Aya Manor and DK back. You have Gunnar Helm taking a step forward. The biggest thing you really lost was Chigakonkwo, and you have Gunnar Helm there too. And I think a capable running back in Tony Pollard to help out Cam Ward as well. Last thing I want to bring up here in this segment before we start talking about the schedule release, Breece Hall inked a 3-year, $45 million contract extension through 2028 with the New York Jets. I think this is more like a 2-year deal, or maybe I'm thinking an A-Chan's deal, but I think there's very little, if no, guaranteed money in the last year of Breece Hall's contract. He's going to be a New York Jets, Steph. The offense is much improved from where it was last year, where it was absolutely abysmal, and abysmal might even be an understatement for how bad it was. But you look at this team this year. Geno Smith, I know Frank Reich's very excited about him. I remain skeptical, but he's probably an improvement over what they had in 2025. You think about what this team could be like in 2027 with a, quote unquote, real quarterback, a real young quarterback, at least behind the helm. What do you imagine for Breece Hall for fantasy going forward? He ended last season as the running back 15 in FFPC scoring. He's going off the board right now as running back 15 at the 304. What are your shares like on Hall? Is this a player that you're trying to get on your rosters this year?
I do like Breece Hall. I think the Jets, again, they've done a lot to improve their offense. So they might be better than what we think. Like you said, it was the first 2 years he was given 29 mil guaranteed, I believe. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of front loaded there. But they had a chance to trade him at the trade deadline even last year. They didn't do it. So they want him to be their guy. They don't have much behind him. They got Braylon Allen, who's coming off an injury and didn't do much his rookie year at all. And then they got Isaiah Davis. So it's like, obviously they want him again to be the focal point. We know that Breece has that explosion. We know that he is a good pass catcher. They have now improved some of their weapons. They got Garrett Wilson. They drafted Omar Cooper. They got Kendrick Sadiq. Who knows what they're going to do with Mason Taylor. But, they got a lot of stuff there. So I think that should open up some lanes for him, like they definitely won't be able to just focus on Brees. And I don't know about Geno. We'll see. I was a little disappointed with most of my Brock Bowers shares last year and things like that. But I think that dumping it off to Brees should not be that difficult. So hopefully, we can see a good season. And I am taking him. I've been a Brees Hall believer for a long time. So I'm willing to go back there because I think that he does have that type of upside that, we've seen it. Like he can he can do it. With the opportunity, I think, he's somebody that can definitely hurt you if you're fading him, and he is could be the guy you need.
Yeah, well, a lot to like about him. Not recovering from a torn ACL.
Yeah,
has some decent weapons on the perimeter that defenses won't just be able to load up the box. Hopefully, I think running back 15 seems about right. I should probably be in business with him a little bit more than I am. That early third-round pick seems pretty enticing for me. Just to give the viewers a little bit of context on that, if we look at the other running backs going around him, he is right behind Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs. And then you have to wait until the end of it's kind of a tier break. And then at the end of the third round, you get your Kyron Williams, your Javonte Williams, your Travis Etienne, those guys there. So Hall, he's kind of the last guy on that tier going forward. And I think a player that if you draft him, you'll probably be happy that you drafted him. Let's take a break, Steph. We'll catch our breath. They are releasing the schedule in drips, in dribbles on the NFL Network and ESPN right now. So we will talk about that. The first thing I want to talk about for sure is this big Week 17 AFC North matchup that we know about that's going to be affecting best ball tournaments everywhere, including the FFPC best ball tournament. She is Steph Miller from Legendary Upside and Ship Chasing. Connect with her on the X at Steph Miller 57. We'll be back right after this. I'm Eric Balkman. You're watching FFPC Insider Access.
Season. A main event team on FFPC, $2,000 entry team, grand prize of $1 million.
I'm looking for that $1 million top prize.
Main event season is in full swing.
FFPC main event early bird still open right now until the end of the month. Save $200 off your first team and be entered into the illustrious FFPC Pros versus Joe's drawing, where if you are selected, you'll get to draft against your favorite industry pros, 42 of them to be exact, for 7 free 2027 FFPC main event teams. Obviously, that's not the only $1 million grand prize we have going on with the main event. We have the Big Gorilla as well. 7 Bananas promo and the early Rampage tournament going on there as well. $25,000 grand prize for the early Rampage, $1 million grand prize for the Big Gorilla. Get in while you can. The Baby Gorilla now available this year, $125 to enter, $100,000 grand prize. If it's still too early for managed teams for you, I get it. We got 2 best ball tournaments for you as well. Last year we had a best ball tournament with a $300K grand prize. This year we upped it to $400,000. And of course, the FFPC Superflex best ball tournament, you could win 6 figures with just a $35 entry there. Check that out, myffpc.com, Dynasty and Empire Startups going on there as well. myffpc.com. chop leagues as well. If you want to play that format where you just don't want to be the lowest scoring team on any given week where your roster gets chopped, check it out, myffpc.com, myffpc.com. FFPC Insider Access rolls on here in hour number 2 for May 14th, 2026, being joined by Steph Miller this week from Legendary Upside and Ship Chasing. Check her out on X at Steph Miller 57. We're getting some interesting stuff rolling out with the NFL schedule as we watch it with you. The first game I think we should talk about here, Steph, because best ballers want to know, who do I got to play, or who are the players, or who are the teams that are going to be crushing it in week 17. And one of the things that I think stands out, this was leaked out earlier yesterday, that the Ravens will be going to Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football in week 17. I know Cincinnati improved their defense this year, but this still should be a high-scoring game, especially if we have a healthy Joe Burrow versus a healthy Lamar Jackson. And you think about this, Steph, with Zay Flowers, with Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. There's so many guys that you'll want in this week 17 matchup, and stackable options too. Jackson and Flowers, Jackson and Mark Andrews, Joe Burrow and I, probably not. Well, I mean, you probably could do Burrow and Chase or Higgins and Burrow as well. But this week 17 matchup, Ravens Bengals, going to factor into FFPC and really any best ball tournament championship. The big money will be doled out to probably somebody who has some skin in the game in this particular game.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see this as a matchup because those are two offenses that I am pretty heavily invested in general. I can't stop every year. I don't know why. I go back to the well with Lamar. I've been drafting a lot of Lamar, a lot of Flowers. I mean, they drafted some rookies as well that are going like super late. You could always tack on to your stacks. We saw what Derrick Henry did, with the 4-touchdown game last year. So, even if, he gets hurt, who knows? There's some, cheap options, whatever you want to do at backup. They did draft a running back late as well. Then Justice Hill's still sitting around. I mean, I don't know. Then we got Mark Andrews, who they finally paid and gave money to. I mean, these are just so much fun. And then obviously we got on the Bengals side. And I mean, even if Burrow goes down, so we get Joe Flacco? I mean, come on. I'm okay with that. Give the ball. Can you get the ball to Jamar Chase? Yes. Okay. And then we got T. Higgins. They didn't really do much to upgrade. Maybe they're wide receiver 3, but Chase Brown should be a smash. Again, they didn't upgrade their running back 2. Tight end would be interesting. I wish that they had gotten a little bit more stuff there. But yeah, these offenses are just so much fun, and I would be excited to be investing in this game for sure.
The other week 17 games here, we'll get this one out of the way because I don't think it's that enticing. It's an AFC Championship game rematch where we have the Broncos visiting New England. So the game not in Denver this time. But to me, that's two pretty talented defenses. I don't know how excited you would be for Broncos Patriots week 17. It probably kills some of my interest in best ball in, guys like Jalen Waddle, guys like Trevion Henderson there.
Yeah, that's a damper.
It is a damper.
It is because I do like in general, I do like Waddle in the net, like by himself, and I do like the Patriots, still. Trevion's always a tough one, I want to believe in the upside, so I do take some. I was out earlier and then somehow talked myself slightly back in. We'll see.
This one I think is a little bit more fun. Chiefs at Chargers in week 7,
yeah,
where we could have Mahomes and Herbert going at it, and we already talked about the stacking possibilities with the Chargers. A lot of stacking possibilities for Patrick Mahomes too. When you look at, is this might be his lowest ADP of his career. I mean, obviously his rookie year where he didn't play, it was super low then. But Patrick Mahomes is quarterback 12 in the 11th round. Pretty easily, could you get him and Rice, him and Worthy, him and Kelsey. I mean, any of those guys. So I think that's interesting. That Chiefs-Chargers game, and that one will be in Los Angeles as well. Some best ball bro is going to be paying attention to that one too.
Yeah, I mean, and on that note, Kelsey's been super cheap this year as well. I think he's one of the best picks you can have. I have an obscene amount of Kelsey this year on best ball teams. I just think, I mean, he still has paid off like more than the price. I mean, I get that he's old, but come on, I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, like people were kind of down on him last year, but if you take the name Travis Kelsey off his stat line, you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, that's actually not that's pretty fancy, This next one, I don't know how to feel about this. I think this is going to be probably a pretty high scoring game. The Rams visit Tampa Bay in week 17 as well. So you have Stafford, Adams, Nakua, Williams, and Corum, and the tight ends obviously taking on those pass catchers we talked about with Tampa, and then obviously we'll see what they have in the backfield then. But that Rams Tampa one might be interesting. Maybe definitely not as interesting as Baltimore and Cincinnati because the quarterback cachet is a little bit lower. But Rams and Bucks should be fun too in week 17.
Oh yeah, I mean those are offenses that are always. I mean the Bucks usually push other people to pass more too, and they have passed. I mean I know that it's not always going to carry over every season, but yeah, those feel pretty fun. I mean those are teams that can put up the points. And I'd assume the weather's probably pretty decent too.
Yeah, probably.
To warm weather place, so that's something else to consider.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting like a snow game there.
No, definitely not. We got a snow game there. We got other problems to be worried about.
Yeah.
Washington and Jacksonville is kind of whatever. New Orleans at Atlanta in week 17. So you have this Tyler Shook, supposedly high-powered team with Etienne there now and Jordan Tyson, who you mentioned earlier. We were talking about Carnell Tate. I like Juwan Johnson against those Atlanta Falcons who were breaking down. And this is one of those games where you'd love, tell me who the starting quarterback is for Atlanta in week 17 and I'll know who I want to target on that team. You're not going to know, but that Saints-Falcons game, that could be another fun, high-scoring one. We've been talking mostly AFC teams. That could be a fun NFC one in week 17 stuff.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think Kellen Moore's going to throw a ton on. They, now have somebody finally to go along with Olave, and yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun game as well. And they're always in a battle,
Yeah,
for the titles.
There's Colts at Browns, but what about this one? Your Dallas Cowboys in week 17, Steph, hosting the fighting Jackson Darts out of New York. The Giants come to Big D in week 17 again, and we talked about this with Neighbors. We said maybe at the end of the season, he'll be at the peak of his powers, or at least as close to the peak of his powers as he can be this first year coming off the ACL. And now the Giants come down to take on the Cowboys in week 17. We could be looking at, 30-something to 30-something in that game.
It could be a fun game. I will say the Giants, I'm curious how good their defense is. I mean, they've been having a lot of top picks. They took a lot of – so I hope that doesn't put a damper on just their games in general,
Right.
Because they might be better than we thought. Like, they spent some top draft picks on defense. So they really have revamped it. And then if they're not pushing the other teams, if they don't have Neighbors and don't have the big scores – I hope they're as fun as we expect. That's one that I'm still need to kind of think through, I think. But I definitely think that the Cowboys usually put up and don't slow down when they're playing the Giants. So they usually play them pretty well. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that one as the matchup right now. And hopefully Neighbors is back to full strength there and we can see some back and forth action.
That we're getting to some blah ones here. Pittsburgh at Tennessee, Buffalo at Miami. I mean, that there's not a ton to like there. The Vikings visit the Jets. Okay. Seattle goes to Carolina. Yeah, there could be something there, but by and large, I'm not excited about that. We have the tight end bowl when Brock Bowers goes to Arizona to take on Trey McBride, Raiders at Cardinals. And then we get this.
That could be fun.
It will be fun. We get this little gem, the Ben Johnson Bowl. Detroit visits Chicago. So we'll get Lions at Bears in week 17. Two offenses definitely. I mean, I don't think you can call the Lions on the upswing anymore. They've been one of the best offenses in the NFL the last several years versus the Bears, who have really come on this past season, the first under Ben Johnson. A lot of points there. These are stackable teams. Caleb Williams and Luther Burden, Caleb Williams, Colston Loveland, Jared Goff, Jameson Williams, Jared Goff, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff, Monroe St. Brown. So that's another one. We talked about that Baltimore-Cincinnati game. And then, obviously the Rams and Buccaneers are probably in the same vein. But this Lions-Bears game that's slated for a 4:25 start, that should be a good one as well, and one that is probably going to help decide, thousands, maybe even millions of dollars in fantasy championships this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, also you get, Ben Johnson revenge game. I think they just play each other extra hard and go at it and pull out all the tricks. And I mean, I think both of these offenses we know are going to be super fun for fantasy this year, and they got so many skilled players. I'm excited. Those are teams that I've already been, investing in. So hopefully when I look through my portfolio, I fell into some of these matchups. So
right, exactly.
That'll be half the fun later to see how much week 17 correlation you managed to get when you're drafting early.
It's sort of like you're drafting these teams all over again, because you're looking at them for the first time in a brand new light, where you know who they're going to be playing and when they're going to be playing them. That is all of them except for the last two games from the week 17 schedule. The Sunday night game will be at the Big Denim, as I call it, from Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. The Niners will host the Philadelphia Eagles. Certainly some high-powered offenses going on. We'll be waiting all day, Steph, for Sunday night when Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley take on McCaffrey, take on Brock Purdy. Mike Evans will obviously be in that game as well, as long as he's healthy. Eagles, Niners, that's going to be a nice little prelude on Sunday night for the final game, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy, one of the best quarterbacks in the league fantasy-wise to end last season. And then you have a brand new offensive coordinator in Sean Mannion coming in to inject some life into this Eagles offense. Stackable, yes, for those, some correlation there. Eagles and San Francisco on Sunday night. I think the NFL is starting to understand how big fantasy is to help grow their game.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I could see it going both ways, because that one could be, yeah. I think I like it. I mean, I do take a lot. I like taking the 49ers. Yeah. I mean, they score points, but they also, both teams love to kick field goals. So who knows? We'll see.
The game will end probably not on the greatest matchup that we could get, because there are some really good ones in week 17. But the NFL has this slated, the final game of week 17, Monday Night Football on January 4th, 2027. CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans come up to the frozen tundra in Green Bay to take on Jordan Love and the Packers. And while there are things to like about these offenses, Nico Collins, David Montgomery, obviously, maybe Tank Dell will be meaningful at that point too. And then you get the Packers with Love and with Watson and Jacobs and Tucker Kraft and all those guys. The problem is it's January and it's Green Bay. It's going to be cold. I don't know how much scoring we'll see on that final Monday night game.
And Houston's defense is so good.
Yeah.
I don't really want whoever's playing them, honestly. It just does not scream fantasy goodness. They're going to put a damper on it. And I don't know. I mean, I'm from Texas, and let me tell you, it does not get that cold here. So I don't know how well they're going to be able to play on offense. Yeah. That's one that I probably would stay away from a little bit more.
That is your week 17 schedule. They're rolling it out right now. They're breaking. I mean, the whole thing is out. You can go on. I'm on ESPN's website. They have the entire schedule out there right now. I'm looking at. It looks like the bye weeks are starting week 5, which I think was what we had last year.
Yeah.
We'll have byes week 5 through week 12, and no bye. Or everybody plays in week 13. And then week 14, we'll have the Patriots, Giants, Niners, and Panthers on a bye. The Bye-pocalypse week stuff, it looks like we have just one of them this year. Thank God. Week 8, Raiders.
That was the same one as last year.
Oh, well, yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right.
That was a big one last year, yeah.
Raiders, Seahawks, Cardinals, Lions, Rams, Jaguars. So we'll have 6 on bye in week 8. But, before that, week 6, 2 teams, week 7, just 2 teams, week 11, just 2 teams as well. So I don't know. I feel like buys are it'd be nice if we could get them all out of the way prior to week 13, but we're going to get these 4 teams on bye in week 14 anyway. So there you have it. More on the schedule release in upcoming episodes, not only of FFPC Insider Access, but the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, and Extra Reps as well. If we can go back to, Steph, some of the stuff we didn't touch on in that first segment, I would like to get your thoughts on Jalen Naylor moving on to the Raiders. He's replaced by Juwan Jennings on Minnesota. So you have your Justin Jefferson, you have your Jordan Addison, and now you have your Juwan Jennings. A lot of J's on this team catching passes from Kyler Murray. Is Juwan Jennings going to be a fantasy factor as the number 3 receiver, or do you think he actually hurts the production of Jordan Addison this year to the point where maybe you don't want to be on either one of those players in your fantasy leagues?
It's a tough one. I've been thinking about this quite a bit myself. He is an upgrade to me, obviously, on Naylor. So they did upgrade. I mean, Jennings is a legitimate player. Like he's really good. We saw what he did on the 49ers. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Can Kyler get the ball to everyone? I do not know. It probably definitely does hurt some of them because it's going to be spread out, I feel like, a lot. I'm sure Justin Jefferson will get him, but maybe the answer is just Kyler's going to be pretty good. Like, I mean, he might score points. Like, it may be hard to figure out the right guy to stack him with outside of Jefferson, but I do think that Kyler in itself, and if maybe he gets back to having a little more rushing production, he might be another one that's kind of sneaky underpriced. Like, I mean, I definitely do believe in this offense, and you know, they have a good coach and stuff. So, I mean, I think it could be fun. I definitely would maybe see if you can get that little bit of discount on Addison. And honestly, how much has Jennings risen? Because it doesn't seem like he's moved.
No, he hasn't.
I think if you look at the guys he's going around, a lot of them might be zeros. So I don't hate taking a shot still. Because, you know, especially in best ball, he could have that week. You know, anybody can have that week where they get you those multi-touchdowns in the right time.
Well, didn't he have a week last year? I mean, what was the one?
I think it was the year before where he had like that 50-point game.
Yeah, I thought, God, I'm looking it up right now because I remember seeing that and I'm like, this rubbing my eyes, like Juwan Jennings, really? This is
I picked him up on waivers the week he and played him in a league like when that happened. So I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
It was insane.
I'm trying to find the game. You said 2024, right?
I think so.
2024. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, my God. Okay. So this was week 3 of 2024 in a 27-24 loss to the Rams. 11 catches, 175 yards, and 3 touchdowns on 12 targets. So he basically caught everything that was thrown to him too. There's something there with Juwan Jennings. I want to wrap this up. The Vikings conversation. Kyler Murray, quarterback 16 right now. Steph, is that too low for him?
I love Kyler. I've been taking him. Yeah, I think he's a value.
He is going right after it's Purdy, Stafford, Nix, then Murray, then Shook. Shook is closing in on Kyler Murray. Then you have Goff and Mayfield after that. But yeah, Murray's legs, that offense with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach, there's a lot to like there. I think he is a little underpriced. Speaking of quarterback whisperers, Kevin Stefanski says, I don't think there is a limit to where Zechariah Branch can line up on the field. Well, thank God, because they're going to have to line him up all over the field in order for him to be creating. You know, I said throughout the whole pre-draft process stuff, I was not a Zechariah Branch guy. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of red flags in his profile. I do think he landed really, really well in Atlanta. And certainly there is a fairly clear path for him being the number 2 wide receiver in Atlanta this year. I wonder how valuable that is, though, being the number 2 wide receiver on a team that already features Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. How much have you been drafting Zechariah Branch at all this year, or you've been staying away?
I have drafted him. I was not drafting him at first because I did not love him, but I have been drafting him now because there is a clear path. I mean, obviously he's a really interesting guy because Georgia decided that they would just throw him screens.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, is that his fault? I don't know. He's pretty good with the ball in his hands. He's got some yak ability. So, there is a shot that there's a lot more there that we just didn't see. I mean, they didn't do him any favors the way they played and featured him, but he was drafted. They spent, some capital on him. I do think that he could be a pretty fun player there. And there is some room. I mean, Pitts is a tight. I mean, we still are going to have at least 2 wide receiver sets. So, somebody else is going to be out there. And I do think that he probably has some more versatility than what we've seen. And I do like that, if he's good with the ball in his hands and they just want to get him the ball, hopefully they'll figure it out.
The Zechariah Branch, I will probably have him on a couple of teams. I still don't like him, even despite this landing spot. But when you consider where he's going in drafts, I mean, it's not like it's not like you're giving up a whole lot by taking Branch. So there is something to be said for that. Real quick on the Chiefs, this is kind of interesting. And I don't, quite frankly, I don't know how you felt about Xavier Worthy when he was coming into the NFL. And then obviously kind of a mini lost season last year. We got some light shed on that by Andy Reid last week, that he said the Chiefs were afraid to do certain things, end quote, with Xavier Worthy after he had that shoulder injury when he got blasted by his own teammate, Travis Kelce, in week 1. It was a fully torn labrum, and he didn't come back until week 4, never got higher than 85 yards in any single game last season. The Chiefs were limiting his routes run last year. But now Andy Reid says he can run the full route tree again because the shoulder's healed, the labrum's healed, whatever. He's good to go. Wide receiver 33 for Xavier Worthy, his rookie year in 2024. Wide receiver 59 this past year. You think he's going to be better than wide receiver 33 this year? And a couple of things to consider. Travis Kelce, obviously on the back 9 of his career, the presence of Rashee Rice on this squad, and the addition of Kenneth Walker to the backfield stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Walker matters and stuff, but you know what they didn't do? They didn't draft another receiver.
Great point.
And I mean, it's one of those, cue the meme of, as soon as I thought I was out, they got me, they reeled me back in. Yeah. I mean, this made sense. I want to believe, we know he's a big play threat. He's a fast guy. I mean, we know Mahomes can chuck that ball. Like, I'm willing to go right back to the well here and what we thought last year. There's a lot of good reasons why it didn't work out. And I think that it's a good chance that we see what we thought we would last year, this year, and now we're getting a discount. So especially with those extra, because I do know he did have the shoulder, and that makes sense of why they wouldn't want to do that and feature him. And I think if they were concerned, they would have made another move in the draft, and they didn't. So, because they were right in line. I mean, they had the picks to do it. They could have invested in a receiver if they felt the need and were worried about it. So obviously, I think they have some faith there because, they have Rashee, but like you say, they still have a lot of aging, with Kelce and things.
If you look at the depth chart for the Chiefs right now at wide receiver, remember Marquise Brown not there anymore. He's now
he's in Philly. Yeah,
you're looking at Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals, Jeff Caldwell. I did nothing. Jeff Caldwell, I think, was an undrafted free agent. I mean, the wide receiver show is Worthy, and it's Rashee Rice this year. I mean, that's it. So I think, when you look at Worthy, what I say he finished in wide receiver 59 last year, wide receiver 33 the year before. He's wide receiver 52 right now at the 1106. Yeah. I think that might be a buying opportunity for people to take advantage of that in the big gorilla. I said we get to more Cowboy stuff, Steph, and we're going to do that right now. George Pickens, let's go to Big D and talk about him. He has officially signed his franchise tag. He's going to get paid $27.3 million this year, fully guaranteed. What's the scuttlebutt on what's going on with a long-term deal there? I've heard differing things from the Joneses there that they were going to work on it. No, they're not going to work on it. Pickens this year, he's kind of a mercurial guy. And then you also consider that there's still a trade on the table or a trade possibility. You tell me what's going on with Pickens, and then most importantly, Steph, tell the viewers what we should be doing with George Pickens in FFPC Big Gorilla Drafts, knowing that he's wide receiver 10 at the 304 right now.
I have no idea. I wish I knew more about Dallas and what they're doing. I mean, it feels to me like I do think he's going to be on Dallas this year. I mean, they're going to play him because I feel like they would have, again, maybe drafted somebody, maybe not, given Lemon to the Eagles, in their lap or something. Like there would have been something. I mean, they didn't take any receivers until like super late. They drafted a couple guys and I think picked up some, again, undrafted free agents. So there's nothing there. I mean, you got Flournoy as your number 3, but like, Jalen Tolbert is gone. He went to Miami. I mean, so it's like there's not much back there. They're investing. I mean, Pickens seems like he wants to be here. I don't know long term what they'll manage to do. The cap is its own beast. Hopefully, I'd like to see them give him a long-term deal. I think they make a great duo. I'm taking him. I'm drafting him. I think that him and CD could easily pay off, and the Cowboys could just put up a lot of points this season. So I'm pretty excited. We'll see. I think they would have done stuff during the draft and had that follow through to fruition. And it feels like also like he's not going to hold out and stuff from what I've heard. So it seems okay for the moment.
That was always my big thing is okay. Yeah, I know he signed it, but what happens if he's like, because he's the type of guy that would do that, where he's like, you know what? No, screw it. I want to get paid. You're going to pay me or I'm not going to show up. I'm going to pay the fines or whatever. And I think as long as he shows up, then we should be cooking with gas with George Pickens in fantasy drafts this year for sure. Very excited to see what Dallas does this year, especially on offense. They look like they are loaded up once again. For putting up a lot of points, chewing up a lot of yardage. Let's take our final break here on FFPC Insider Access. When we come back, let's break down Steph's draft that she did. Steph, when was this? The women's best ball tournament presented by Fantasy and Frames. How was that? 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago?
It was a while. I think it was the end of March.
End of March. Oh, yeah. But you're right. March 30th. I'm just seeing that now. Okay. So I want to break that down. Obviously, ADPs have changed, but Steph's convictions in her picks have not. Or have they? We'll talk with her. And we'll figure out how she feels about her team now that we are a month and a half removed from it. At Steph Miller 57 from Legendary Upside and Ship Chasing. You're watching FFPC Insider Access. Don't go anywhere. We finish up strong right after this.
We're drafting a main event team on FFPC, $2,000 entry team. Grand prize of $1 million.
I'm looking for that $1 million top prize.
Main event season is in full swing.
It is time to register for the FFPC main event. Have you not done it yet? Make sure you are. $200 off your first team, $600 off each additional team when you register prior to May 31st. Then you're eligible for that Pros versus Joes drawing, where 42 Joes will go up against 42 industry pros for the rights to seven free FFPC main event teams in 2027. That's always fun. And then, of course, the FFPC Big Gorilla has drafts going daily. $1 million grand prize. You can draft for that right now. 7 Bananas promo and early Rampage promos are live for the FFPC Big Gorilla. Baby Gorilla, just $125 to enter, but you still have a chance at a $100,000 grand prize. We have a best ball tournament with a $400,000 grand prize. We have a best ball tournament with a $100,000 grand prize that just costs $35 to enter. Dynasty Empire Leagues going on right now. Dynasty and Empire Dynasty League started at $100, go up to $5,000 there. Check that out. And of course, we've just added Chop Leagues to the rotation. Just survive every single week. Don't be the lowest score in your league in any given week, and you will win your league, win your way into the Big Gorilla or the main event, or just take some cash prizes. It's all at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. We go back to the co-host with the most, Miss Steph Miller, joining us tonight on behalf of Legendary Upside and Chip Chasing at Steph Miller 57. So you had participated, and I believe you've done this before, the Fantasy and Frames Women's Best Ball Tournament that the FFPC hosted. Stacey Perez puts this together every single year. I jumped on the stream when you were drafting on March 30th. We chopped it up with Stacey. I had a lot of fun. You were drafting out of the 10 spot in this Best Ball Slim draft. So you're looking at 20 rounds, no kickers, no defenses. And I do want to focus in on a few of your picks here. The first one we'll kick it off with was James Cook at the 110. You go with Cook in the first round, and I know there was a lot of people for the last 2 years saying that regression was coming for James Cook, and it really hasn't. Should we just expect that this is who James Cook is? Like, he's going to put up numbers, even though Josh Allen vultures touchdowns from him, even though he's not the most prolific pass catcher? Led the league in rushing last year. I don't know if he leads the league in rushing again, but certainly a player that you thought was well worth the 110 here, Steph.
I mean, the Bills' offense is putting up a lot of points. Like you say, he's been himbo, for a couple of years now. Everybody keeps saying he can't do it, and he's been doing it. Another team, they got DJ Moore, but they didn't draft anybody else. They definitely didn't draft another running back. Got the guys behind him, have their roles, but yeah, I think that James Cook again could definitely be a big part of what they're doing, and Josh needs to throw the ball to somebody.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly. You in the third round, you go with Travis Etienne, and I think what's interesting about this, maybe you feel the same way, but knowing what we know about Kamara now, and knowing that, he's probably going to be on the team this year. He might steal some pass catching work on third down from Etienne. If you had to do it over again, would you have still taken Etienne there? You're looking at Trevion Henderson went after him, Scadaboo, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall, Javonte Williams. Would you have taken any of those players instead of Etienne, or do you still feel really confident in that pick right now?
I think I still like Etienne over those guys right now. Kamara did not look very good, and there's still some weirdness going on there. There's still a chance that he may not end up being on the roster, I believe. There's still some undecided things. I think if he probably retires if he's not, because he said,
Right.
So we'll see. And again, there's something else. There's not a lot behind him. Nothing's been proven. So I think he's going to see a good role, and I'm pretty excited for that offense in general. I think they can put up some points.
Yeah, that's the other thing to consider too. Maybe if the Saints do take a step forward as an offense this year, and you mentioned that's in the first hour of the show, how much Kellen Moore loves to pass, and he runs so many plays. Like, they play at a very fast pace. Maybe if they do take a step forward and they are out on the field longer, then, Kamara can still be good, and Etienne can still pay off that late third round pick, for fantasy players this year. Just curious, looking it up right now. If we look at the Big Gorilla, which is not best ball, by the way, this is managed leagues. Etienne is running back 18 at the 310. So same spot that you grabbed him back in March. That's where he's going again here. We go to another running back, Steph, on this roster, and I feel like I'm giving short shrift to the Jacksonville running game on this show. and my other shows over the course of the last month or so, because I think this is one that's important to figure out. The Jaguars look like an up-and-coming offense. We know Travis Hunter now is probably going to be playing at least some offense this year. Receiver room looks stacked with Thomas, with Washington, with Myers. You have Cade Otton on that team, or not Cade Otton, Brenton Strange on that team. I believe they drafted Tanner Koziel, who I really like as a pass-catching tight end as well. And then obviously Sunshine himself, Ronnie James Bass, Ronnie Bass, not Ronnie James Bass, Ronnie Bass. Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback there. So you look at this offense here. Well, what's missing? The nebulous situation in the backfield is probably what needs to be attacked. Bashal Tutin is there. LaQuint Allen is probably need to catch enough passes just to gum up the works a little bit more. And then Chris Rodriguez, I can't remember at what point Rodriguez signed. I don't know if he was on Jacksonville at that time. But I want to get your thoughts on the Tutin pick. When you look at this backfield going forward, how confident do you feel on Tutin getting, at least the majority of the workload? Majority could be 51%, but just kind of, I want to know what you think about the volume that Tutin is going to get in 2026 with Jacksonville.
I mean, I think Tutin's going to pretty much be their guy. I mean, Rodriguez is going to have some, but I mean, come on. When we were looking at free agents of guys that could be signed and thinking of who we would be the most scared of as threats, nobody was saying Chris Rodriguez was going to be a guy they would all of a sudden be threatened by and not like. He was cut by the Commanders before, I think twice, and then re-signed. He had a role for them at some point, but that was just because I think they were just trying to find something. I mean, he was okay, but he's not a great talent. I mean, Tutin was an explosive athlete. They spent the draft capital on him. I mean, they got rid of Etienne, or however you say his new name. I mean, they want to make him the center. I mean, they obviously they showed it again. He survived the draft. This was before the draft. That was the scariest thing, is they were saying that they liked their backfield and they liked these guys. And then they showed that they did. So, I mean, it seems like they are wanting to take that step forward with him as, their main running back. And I think that even as time goes on, if they start with, C-Rod with a little bit of a role, that, he's going to be the more talented, explosive guy, and he's going to, end up being definitely the lead back. Maybe it's very rare that we have like anybody that's 100% of the work or anything. So it's like you're always going to have somewhat of a split. But I'm pretty confident that the Jags are going to be a pretty fun offense. So I felt good about this pick. The only thing I'll say is I kind of wish, looking back structurally, that maybe I had done like a tight end here or something. I remember this spot going between him and like Kyle Pitts, and I kind of think that maybe I should have switched it in my running backs. I might have been able to. Who knows? It would have changed the whole rest of the draft, but that was something afterwards that I kind of like mulled over with the tight end premium aspect, thinking maybe I could have been a little more patient.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, you could have. I'm looking at the draft board right now.
Mm-hmm.
You could have. I mean, you're looking at, okay, so let's say you take Pitts there, and then you replace the Kittle pick, which we'll talk about in a second. You replace Kittle in the 8th round. You could add Pollard, Corum, Algier, which it's not looking good now, for Algier in the 8th round. Dobbins, Jadarian Price, which would have been a good pick, but we didn't know, about where he was going to land in Seattle. So I don't know. Hindsight's 2020. But this Kittle pick we have to talk about here, because you were, I believe, no, maybe you weren't, but it's close. The last team to take a tight end. Certainly this was your first tight end that you had drafted. And what Scott Baird from Fantasy Points always says, upside wins championships, right? There is upside here with Kittle as the 12th tight end drafted here. The latest he's gone probably, since he became George Kittle. You get him in the 8th round here as your number 1 tight end. How many? I mean, I don't think he's going to be ready week 1. I know that there's some positivity saying that's going to happen. When do you think he comes back? And I'll say, let me preface this by saying, when we talked about Neighbors, I think Neighbors coming off an ACL with the type of explosive prerequisite that it takes to play his position well. I think I'm more concerned about him coming off an ACL rather than George Kittle coming off a torn Achilles or whatever it is, right? Because I think Kittle, I don't want to say he can fake it more, like, coming off this injury, but I do think he's crafty enough to still be fantasy relevant, even if he's not at 100%. I'm less concerned about his injury, especially with the draft capital too, when you talk about him versus neighbors. But how many games do you think Kittle plays this year, and how close to 100% do you think he will be in 2026?
I don't know. It's a really tough thing. It's like we've come a long way with Achilles injuries. Like Achilles, actually, they're coming back sooner than ACLs usually. The recovery timeline is sooner. So, I mean, yeah, he may not be ready week 1. Hopefully, within the first 4 weeks. I'd love to see him out there. Again, yeah, it's a little bit different than a running back. I do think that Kittle is a guy that does have his head on straight and does know how to handle it and is not scared of anything. And I could just see him figuring it out. I don't know. He's an older guy, though, so that's always a little bit of a concern. But again, this is just one of those things of how they use him in the offense at that point in the draft. It's like you have to take those shots. It's like I obviously pushed the position, and it was like, you know what? This is one of those things. It's like if it works out, it could definitely win it. And if not, then, yeah, you know what? This was fun. But might not be the thing. I don't know like what percentage, because like he may never get back to 100% because of his age and stuff. So I mean, we may never see him. It may only be like he might only maximally be 75-80% of what he was, if that, and that might be a high end.
Yeah, that's so a good. You also added, and we'll. I don't know. I don't think we'll get to Chigokonkwo in a little bit. I said, you could have had J.K. Dobbins instead of Kittle. You got Dobbins anyway. You got Dobbins the pick after George Kittle in this draft. And this was I believe he was with Denver at the time. I think he was already signed. They gave him some decent money. I'm not necessarily concerned with Jonah Coleman from a redraft standpoint this year. I think Dobbins' biggest enemy this year is not RJ Harvey. I think it's J.K. Dobbins. And as long as he's out there, he should have a really good season for Denver. I just question how many games he plays. But certainly, Steph, in the 9th round, who cares?
Yeah.
Whatever you get from him, you're loving it as your number 4 running back on this squad.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. As long as he's healthy, I think he's going to produce. It's just how long he stays healthy, too, with his history.
What do you make of Chigokonkwo now in Washington? Moves on from Tennessee, and he's on a Washington team that, maybe they add Ayuk, maybe they don't. Maybe they add Keenan Allen or Steph Diggs or somebody like that. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But as it stands right now, it's Terry McLaurin. It's the rookie Antonio Williams. It's the quasi, maybe almost full-on bust, Treylon Burks on this team. There is a huge opportunity for Okonkwo here. Mm-hmm. Somebody was saying in the YouTube chat on this show, or maybe it's one other show like a month or so ago, Okonkwo still hasn't shown out in Tennessee. Why should we believe he shows out in Washington? Why should we believe he breaks out? And maybe he doesn't break out, but Steph, maybe he doesn't have to. Given the volume that he might see in Washington this year, he could be the number 2 option on this offense.
Yeah, I don't think he has to be like a huge breakout, like you say. It's like they're gonna get him the ball. It's like he could just be a role player. They could use, big tight end in the end zone. He could just be that red zone threat. I mean, we getting, here it's just like there's nobody else he's competing with for that role. So they're going to, and I think also Washington should still be an upgrade. I mean, Jaden Daniels is going to be an upgrade for him. So like the whole scheme could just be better. And I think that he's somebody, again, where there's enough of a mystery box aspect to take that there could be a hidden upside there for where we're taking him in the draft. And those are the type of players you want to take a swing on here. You can't win these tournaments by playing it safe.
No, you have to take some chances. I'm looking at some of the other players you drafted. Some of them we talked about already. Kyler Murray, you drafted on this team. Xavier Worthy, you drafted on this team. And then a player I thought was a really good value for you, the 56th wide receiver chosen in this draft, He doesn't go off the board until the early 14th round. You get Jaden Reed, which normally is a player I avoid, but now I look at what the Packers did in the offseason, or perhaps what they didn't do. They lost Romeo Doubs. They traded Dontavian Wicks. They didn't draft any receivers in the draft.
Yep.
They didn't draft any skill position players in the draft. They didn't sign anybody significant. I know Sky Moore is on the team, but I don't think he's striking fear into the hearts of any Jaden Reed owners out there. This is a more concentrated Packers offense this year, passing game. So yeah, Kraft and Watson are going to get theirs. But if Golden doesn't step up, and maybe even if he does, maybe Jaden Reed has a really nice bounce back. He doesn't play in 2 wide receiver sets, which I know hurts him, but it seems like he still does a lot of damage despite the limited snaps. And you get him in round 14, Steph. Nice work.
Yeah, because he's been one of the biggest risers, out there. So people after the draft have been pretty frothy on him. So yeah, that definitely feels good.
You know what's funny is Jerry Jeudy, you drafted in the 17th round. At the time you drafted Jeudy, the Browns did not have KC Concepcion.
Yeah.
They did not have Denzel Boston. And quite frankly, if we look at so now they add those players, right? Cleveland adds those players. And now you look at Jerry Jeudy's ADP in the big gorilla, wide receiver 71 at the 1706. Hasn't moved anywhere, which
crazy,
which is wild to me. Because I think, who was it? Was it Monken or somebody from Cleveland was saying like they want to get him back to where he can be the number 1 wide receiver on this team. It wasn't all that long ago that he had a big time 2024 season where we're all falling all over ourselves to draft him the following year. Now we know the investment Cleveland made in the rookies here, but they are rookies. So there is something to be said for Jerry Jeudy as being the number 1 wide receiver that perhaps you got in the 17th round.
I hope so, but I will tell you that if this was a post-draft, I would not have taken Jeudy there personally.
You take Calvin Ridley too, the round after that, and that's another player that they added Carnell Tate, but with this being best ball, and Ridley is sort of a lost season last year, not because of underproduction, but he was hurt. And now he comes back this year, and they're saying all the right things. I think, and I know Steve Yergalos, who was in the YouTube chat earlier, he was taking Ridley quite a bit late in a lot of drafts. I don't know if he still is, but he definitely has his late round bags packed, at least for Calvin Ridley. This is another player too. We've seen him do it before, Steph, and certainly there's a world of possibilities on this Tennessee team. To see how they go and changing roles and what have you. I don't know. I think you can do a lot worse than Calvin Ridley in the 18th round.
Yeah, it felt like at the time some of these picks were also structural. I did take most of my receivers, if you look at, were kind of like really ceiling type guys. I had Worthy, I had JMO, I had T. So I was trying to build in a little bit of some floor, even as much as I could late. I didn't need the big upside swings because I felt like I took a lot of those early. So a couple of them didn't really, pan out as much. Like, obviously them taking a receiver overall at 4 was not what I expected when I drafted Ridley. But at the same time, he's probably still the wide receiver 3, with him and Wandale. There. I don't know about the volume.
The volume to me, like, and for best ball, and I know honestly this is like one of your floor guys or whatever. But 18th round, just like whatever you can get from him at this point. When you looked at this team, I should say, on March 30th when the draft is done, and now you look back on it here in mid-May, how do you feel about this squad that you put together?
I think it aged pretty well. Honestly, the biggest picks that we just talked about were those 2 that seemed to probably age the worst, and they're not terrible. Like there's still a world, like you say, that Jeudy could still be the wide receiver 1. Ridley went from the 2 to the 3, so it's probably not anything else. And I got some value. I think I found a few guys that were risers. I did pick late the right rookie, I believe. I took Bernard in my last pick. He got the decent draft capital. He's one of the bigger risers, because there was a lot of rookies that turned out to be big fat nothings, and that's one of the risks you take. So it felt fun to hit on that. The only one I'd say that Najee I took late, we obviously don't know where he's playing, if he's playing. So that one to be decided. But there's still some spots. You never know. We still could see him get picked up or an injury happen and a team picks him up once the season starts. You never know. There's not a lot of other running backs out there. So,
yeah, I look at the running backs that went after Harris, and I mean, like, I probably would have taken Chris Brooks over him. But even Brooks, we don't even know if he's the backup in Green Bay, so that I don't think I can make a good case like, oh, I would have rather had X running back over Najee Harris here. I think you're drafting for upside. You had at that point, that was your 6th running back. You have you had Cook, Etienne, Tootin, and Dobbins, which I think are as strong as you're going to get for top 4 running backs in this format. And then you add Brian Robinson, who has the contingent upside behind Bijan Robinson. And then Harris too. If he lands somewhere, he might be the type of guy that somebody signs him after week 1. And exactly. Then, or he falls into being an injury away type guy. You never know. Yeah. Maybe Seattle. I don't know. This was a lot of fun. The 2 hours flew by, Stephanie. This was great. Remind us again, when we want to consume more Steph Miller content, I know you're grinding it out for Legendary Upside during the season. Tell us what it's going to be like for you until the season starts. And then once the NFL season begins, what you're going to be doing, not only for Legendary Upside, but ship chasing as well.
Yeah, right now, I mean, most of that stuff is going to probably be in season. That is going to be kicked off because we're doing the redraft leagues and stuff for the high stakes. But right now, I am drafting tons of best ball teams myself. So you will find me in the streets grinding away, and hit me up on Twitter. Find me in the streets. I'll be doing some FFPC drafts. I'm sure I'll be mixing it up and trying to win $1 million like everybody, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. That's plan A, as I always say. At Steph Miller 57 on the X. Steph, this was great. I'm so glad we got a chance to hook up and do this show again. We will definitely have you back again very soon. Enjoy drafting season and enjoy the NFL season. Enjoy the schedule release for what's left of it. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you tonight, and we will do this again sometime soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Steph. That is Steph Miller, Stephanie Miller from Legendary Upside, and of course, Ship Chasing. Check her out on X at Steph Miller 57. I want to thank Stephanie for hopping aboard tonight. Remind you that both best ball leagues that we have for the FFPC Live. Remember, we added $100,000 grand prize. $100,000 to that grand prize, up to $400K for the best ball tournament. Big Gorilla featuring $1 million grand prize, 7 bananas and early Rampage promos going on right now. The Baby Gorilla, you can still win $100K for just $125 to enter. FFPC Dynasty and Empire Dynasty startups going on as well. The main event, early bird for the FFPC main event, is going until May 31st. So make sure you're registering by then so you get $200 off your first team. Remember, you're going to get $600 off each additional team you get for the main event. And you're also entered in that Pros versus Joe's drawing if you are registered by May 31st. Chop League's available now at the FFPC. Just don't be the lowest scoring team in your league every single week, and you will win your league. Cash prizes, main event entries, and Big Gorilla entries at stake. That's all at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Now, I will say this. I mentioned last night we're going to do some live draft coverage. I forgot about something in my schedule, and I cannot do it. So next week, on Wednesday, we will have a regular high-stakes fantasy football hour at 10 p.m. Eastern. We will have regular FFPC Insider Access at 7 o'clock. Brandon Murchison from Rotoballer makes his return to the show, so we'll talk with him for 2 hours. And then you'll get your extra reps Friday night at 10 p.m. So we're hoping to have live draft coverage. I can't swing it this year. My apologies on that. But we'll have a great week of shows anyway. Enjoy the rest of the schedule release, everybody. Thanks to Stephanie Miller. For Stephanie Miller, I've been Eric Balkman. This is FFPC Insider Access. We'll talk with you tomorrow night on Extra Reps, next week on the HSF Hour, and next week right here, Thursday night, 7 p.m. with myself, Brandon Murchison from Rotoballer. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk with you again soon.